Let's decline. Okay. Yes. So from here, we'll talk about two important things. First, we start with methods as a way to refactor and structure our code. And then this will set us for the next important module, which we'll talk about as classes. We won't have any assignments after this in terms of a new assignment. We might have, like, I might ask you for a new subject as an assignment, but here's the thing, everything we do after this is going to focus on your final project. So basically, I will ask you, once we complete this module, then I will ask you to work on your code and try to restructure it. Then again, after the next module, you will work on restructuring again your code with the things that we talk about in terms of classes. So make sure to just move forward with that as we move forward with these topics. And then 1 week, probably 1 week at the end of the semester, again, you will have time to just put together everything, add new features to your applications, and then 1 or 2 sessions is about presentation. And I will ask you to come here and present your application and your project to the rest of the class. With that, let's start this module 5. Here we talk about organization. We want to talk about defining and calling methods. We want to see what is separation of concern and also refactoring. Both things come with methods, come with classes, come with methods. Separations of concern. We want to take these concerns, which is basically takes the processes inside our application and place them into chunks of code, create a small chunks of code which they have a name, and then use them throughout the application. We'll talk about how we can actually separate these concerns or separate these features and create a small chunks of code which perform a single task. Refactoring and the dry principle, which is the idea that don't repeat yourself. We don't want to just continue copy pasting our code and just doing that over and over again because we see that our code or our functions get repeated over time. Once you do repeat yourself, copy and paste yourself over time, you realize that you have a lot of code that are very similar, and when you want to change them, you have to change the same thing so many times. So we want to make sure that we only have at least one or 2 examples of one code, and if we want to apply it to get the change, we only apply that one time. Refactoring means that we already have the code, and we are going to focus on refactoring, basically restructuring our code into a method-based application. Yes, please pay attention here. Okay, for that, we are going to work on basically, again, it's about refactoring. So we are just using the same project that we have already developed. I'm going to try to develop some of it here, and then some part of the code, we are just going to copy paste it into code so we can get to the main topic of this module. Let's create one new Python file. I will name it as just app module 5.py. Okay, so we can develop this code. App.py. First, let's go through the steps as we've been doing. We've been pushing with app development. First, let's start with the imports. I will copy this imports here and again paste them. We need the Streamlit, we need time, we need JSON, we need pass from passlib, and also UUID where we use it for generating new IDs. Then using a Streamlit st set page config, I will use set page config to set up the configurations of our application. Page title, So course management. Course management. Then let's set the layout. I will set the layout also here as centered. And then well, one more thing, initial sidebar state, put it as collapse. For this one, we don't have for now sidebar, so I will just put it as collapse. Let's set a title for our page actually here. So sd.title, I will place this as course management. Okay, course management is good enough. Then just a sd.divider here. Um, Next step, I will add this loading the data. So what we want to do, we want to load the data from our storage. We already had this list of assignments. I will just use the same example. So we just consistently use the same example and same design. So we have a list of assignments and we already have two assignments in this list or dictionary of dictionaries. We have the ID, we have title, we have description, point, and type. Then we have this JSON pass. We will create a JSON pass where we read basically read the JSON file or store and read the JSON file from. It is assignments.json. So we are done with the loading the data. Now, here I want to start with a few things, our session state. So I want to initialize some keys in our session state. I want to add two keys into our session state, and we'll use those keys throughout this project. One key is page. So if page not in session state, that's how sd.session state. Now, if page not in session sd.session state, then initialize this key in the session state, sd.session state page. And our initial page, we want to set it as assignment dashboard. Assignment dashboard. Let's create or add another key to our session state, and I will talk about why we want to add it. We'll name it as draft. If draft not in sd dot session state, then let's initialize that with draft. And our draft is an empty dictionary. The reason that I'm creating this key in our session state is that later we can store the draft of the new assignment in the session state before we recorded it for persistent data, which in this case we have persistent file, which in this case that's our assignments.json. So I'm creating this key in the session state, and I will collect the information from user about the new assignment and store it in that session state key. Initially, it's just an empty dictionary. Now, let's structure our pages, okay? So I want to say if sd.session_state page, if it is equal to assignment dashboard, let's do a pass. Else if sd session_state page, the other page we want to add is the add new assignment. Then pass. Else if the dot session_state edit assignment. Oh. So we have 3 pages and we place the structure for them: assignment dashboard, add new assignment, and edit assignment. We don't get a chance to work on the layout design during the class to actually see different layouts. I try to give you some ideas in terms of how to lay out your designs in the practices video. So whenever you have time, just come back to this like practices and see some different layout ideas, and then maybe you can use them in your application development. Now, let's focus on one by one, try to add a little bit more code into each one of these pages. First, I will remove this, add assignment dashboard. I will add a column here, col1 and col2, col1 and col2 sd.columns. Divide the area to 3, 1. So we have 2 columns, divide with 3 for col1, 1 for col2. With col1, sd subheader, let's use this assignments. And then with col2, so I have this simple design. Usually I also have used it in my own design, which is like the title in the same line as title, the button that directs the user to the next page. Which I actually have it here. I can show you an example. A lot of times, like for example here, you have a title, and then in the same row you have the button which directs you to the next page. So if I click here in create assignment as a teacher, that's where I go to create a new assignment. So here I have this assignments. Here I want to add a button similarly to say sd.button, if sd.button, the button is add new assignment. Add new assignment. Let's add the keys as well. If you recall, we said for the widgets, let's make sure that we add the keys because the number of these features or these UI components increase, and we want to keep track of them and make sure that they're uniquely recorded with unique IDs. So key, add or just add new assignment, ETN. Type primary, use container with true, and add a add the column. What should I place in this inside this button? What should I place inside this button? If user clicks on this button, they want to be able to see and add a new assignment. What we needed to do, yes.
Would that also then give you options for like what kind of details you want to put for the new assignment?
So I want to make sure that when the user clicks, they go to the other page, which is add new assignment. Right? Okay. So in that scenario, you would think like our approach, what should it be? Just change the session state, right? Session state and one more step, force the rerun, right? Force the rerun. That's great. So sd dot session state. If the user clicks, change the session state for the key called page to add new assignment. And then force a rerun. You have to force a rerun. Otherwise, the user clicks and they just nothing happens unless they actually refresh the page. So it's not a good approach. So what I will do here, sd.rerun. Force a rerun. Now, sd.container with sd.container border true. Let's add, you see, I place this not under these columns, but it is not inside any of those columns. What happens? Now we have two rows. One row, the first row is divided to two columns, and then we have the second row. We'll see that in a bit. So here I will use sd.dataframe assignments. Data frame assignments. If I go back here to our application, okay. So my first row is divided to two columns. My second row, or whatever is it, is just a complete column. You didn't use column to divide it. That's why I can see the complete area is taken with that data frame. Okay. Here, when I click on the button, what happens? Okay, I'm directed to add new assignment. Now I can move on to develop that button here. So it changes the session state to add new assignment and then reruns. Now let's get to add new assignment. Let's take the same approach. Call one, call two, sd.columns. Again, 3-1. So here with call one, sd.subheader, add new assignment. With call to. Here with call to, what do I want to add as a button? I want to add a back button. Simply, if you go to the next page, you want to have a way to return to the prior page. So if sd.button, it's the back button here, or return or back, whatever you want to name it. We'll set the key name to back, btn. I can set the type this time to secondary. It's a secondary button here. Here, if this is our code, then move to the next page. If you want to return to the prior page, it's pretty much the same code. You just need to change the value of that in the session state. So here I have st dot session state page. It's the back button, so I'm returning the user to the dashboard page. So I will set this as assignment dashboard. And then again, force a rerun. You see that we're still developing the like the code in a way that we would develop in the past, so we haven't started the refactoring. This will give us a way to refresh our minds about this code and then start the applying the idea of refactoring to our code. So if I rerun my code, and I can see that here I have this button, back button. You can design it a little bit better. I'm pretty sure you have you have other ideas to do this, but you can see that now here is this back button and the add new assignment button are working to redirect us to different pages. Now, here I want to just use the idea, the codes we have already. We would add this, so I will copy it here, then I will explain what we have in this place. So I added these features here, or these widgets. Let me close them. Okay, I have title, a single text box for title, text area for description. We have this a speed number. The only thing you can see here is that I'm storing it in the session state. I will tell you why I'm using the session state here when we get to the edit version. We'll see that how it's a good way to actually reduce the amount of coding we do here. So I'm storing the information I'm collecting from the user in the key that I added to the session state. It's temporary. It's temporary, so I can do that. I'm gonna apply a few changes to this code. Add keys. They don't have the keys, so this is title, text edit. Title text edit or text input. Here, this is the key can be set to description, text, or text the input. Text the input. For points, the is points input. I also have other features. Let me add them here. We also stored information about the assignment type. As well. I think that's the last one. So we have the assignment type, title, description, and points. Again, I will add the key here too. Key is type selector. Don't forget to set the keys. And we are storing it in session state key. You can store it in variables, just what we've done. But I will tell you why in this case, it's better to actually store it in the session state, doing data collection, because we are still in this part, we are collecting the input from the user, and whenever we attempt to record it, then we will record it in a persistent file, in this case, in our JSON file. Now we can add this. If sd dot button, this is our save button here. I will also add a key name here, save btn, set the type to primary, use container with true. If it is clicked, let's give that idea of in progress to the user. I don't want it to just quickly just record everything. So with sd.spinner in progress with sd.spinner, I can add this time data sleep. Again, it's a simulation. The only reason we use time data sleep to make kind of a simulation that this is happening because we're not correctly using database. So this can happen very quickly. But in reality, these things can take a few seconds or 1 second or 2 seconds to be completed. In progress, now we can add this part, assignments dot append. And then let's add the new dictionary, new assignment dictionary here. ID. For ID, I will use str. I need to convert it to a str. What is it? The UUID dot UID, which we use for generating new IDs. This is the one that we're now using to generate the IDs for or keys for our new assignments or anything that we're recording as a new item in the list. Add a comma here. Now we have title session state. We recorded the information in the session state in the draft key. So I will use that draft key. I think I need to use one quotation. And then this is title. And description. So add the new assignment to the list of assignment. Now let's record this assignment in a persistent file. That's when we use with open JSON pass and then W for writing as F. JSON dot dump assignments. First, add the assignment to the list of assignments, then record it in a persistent file. Once it's completed, let the user know it's being completed or successfully recorded. So st.success assignment is recorded. Again, this could be done very quickly, so I will add a delay so actually the user can see this message. So time dot asleep, 30 seconds is good. These are small things that you want to pay attention. When the user clicks and records the assignment, what should happen? Do you want to keep the user again in the add new assignment page? I added the assignment, the task is completed. That's when I want to direct the user, go back to see the assignments now. You don't want to stay in the same page, right? It makes the user think that the app actually understand where the user wants to go after this. So now it's time to update the session state. st.session state for page. Before we force the rerun, we're going to change the value of this key to dashboard. Okay, so assignment dashboard. That was the name of our page here, assignment dashboard. And then force a rerun. st.rerun. Let's force a rerun. So when this happens, then we refresh the page or force a refresh so the user is directed to the dashboard page. Let's test the application. So we've developed this page. I'm going to go back to the start from here, add new assignment. So I will go to add a new assignment. Let's set the title, new assignment. New assignment. And let's set the point to 100, select the type, homework, and then click on save. That in progress is important. Then we see assignment is recorded, and then we are directed to the new page, and we do this. One thing is clear. What happened? I can't see the new assignment here. So let me go back and see where I missed it. Right here. Oh, okay. So what I missed, I forgot to add this part here at the top of our code to check if it exists, it should read the information from the list of assignments. So let's go back to this part under the past JSON paths, add this if JSON path dot exists. If the JSON path dot exists, then with open JSON path, this is going to be a read as f assignments is equal to JSON dot load f. Initially I missed adding that code, so make sure you go back and please add this code under JSON paths. Now let me refresh my page. Now I can see the information. So this is what we added as a new assignment. We need to add the new assignment is already in our list. You can see that here, that the new assignments is already added to our list of assignments. Any questions so far? So far, everything that we did, we have already done before, okay? Now it's time to actually think about what we are talking here, which is in case of refactoring, in case of restructuring our code. Let me open this node again and get to refactoring. So what is the problem here? That is spaghetti code, which we have everything in one place. And then if you want to reuse some part of your code, you have to just copy paste it. What we are going to do, we are going to go over our code and apply some changes. These changes come from an idea of we don't want to have keep copying and pasting our code, and we want to be able to develop a code that is scalable. So from here, we talk about refactoring and reusability. Restructuring the existing code without changing external behavior. So this is about only code design. This is not going to impact what the user experiences. So after this, the user who is using the application is not going to experience any type of change when they're interacting with the application. The only thing that is going to change is actually in the background. We are going to restructure the code. In our restructuring, we want to pay attention to this concept. Very important, so please pay attention. Separation of concern. We've learned, and you probably practiced this, to place code inside functions, inside methods. One thing you want to pay attention to, and I think it's a common mistake, is that we just place codes inside methods and we start using them without paying attention to actually what we are putting into every method. So before that, we need to learn this concept. The application has to be divided into 3 important layers. Every application you're going to develop here from now on has to be divided into 3 layers. One layer, the data layer. This is anything related to reading and writing to your database. The database is JSON, database is SQL, whatever is it. Anything that is about reading information directly. For example, if you have a SQL code, it's a data layer. If you have JSON or if using the code JSON, that's the part of data layer. It should be in the data layer. Service layer. What's a service layer? This is your layer, or these are the part of your code that are about logic, about the processes. You have read the information from database, loaded up, and then you're trying to run a function. For example, find a specific assignment. Find an employee, add a new employee. This is a process. This is a logic. This is a code you're running doing that application. So that's your service layer. Then it comes to the UI layer. UI layer is anything that is related to how the user experiences. The user actually sees it and uses it. In this case, it's pretty much straightforward for us. Why? Anytime you're interacting with a streamlet, that's our UI layer. So those codes are part of the UI layer. Why this separation is important? Because when you're creating your methods, you're going to make sure that you don't have a method that has 2 layers in it. You don't have a method that has 2 layers in it. Every method should only include 1 layer. Either it's a data layer code, or it's a UI layer code, or it's a service layer code. We're going to practice this a few times so you get to see actually the practice or the code. I want to also mention this front end and back end development. You have probably heard this, like these words. Here's a good place to mention it. Front end development, anything related to users' experience with the application. Backend development, anything except like the front end, that becomes a backend development. From designing your database, designing your like service layer, designing your data layer. These are backend development. Full stack development. If you heard that, you're doing a full stack development from back end to front end. You're actually developing the complete application here. Your app architecture. This is the part that you are going to pay attention to, the architecture of your application. The application architecture should look like this: front end, back end, and then a storage. So we are going to place codes in a way that it separates front end from the back end. And even in the back end, we're going to have two things: service layer and data layer. And these will be completely separated from each other. Why does it matter? It matters a lot for two important reasons. It makes it easier for you to make changes into your application. So let's say tomorrow or at the end of this semester, I will ask you to make a change in your code, which probably I will do. I will ask you to replace completely the JSON layer or data layer of your application with SQL and with database. You don't want to go back and change the whole code. You want to be able to only change one layer, one code layer. If you haven't developed your application with a good architecture, you will have to throw out everything that you've developed in 2 months and start from the beginning. However, if you develop your code with this good architecture that separates each of these layers from each other, you only make change into your data layer. You will never touch the code in the other layers. And it requires practice. It requires refactoring, making some changes in the code design. The same way for UI design. If your app is designed architecturally well, which in this case meaning that the UI layer is completely separated from the other layers, then you can simply say, this is the back-end code. Let me hire like a new coder who knows and understands Next.js or any other type of UI language. And they will look at your UI layer and then replace it with a new UI. They will never change your back-end code, and you won't do it again. So you only make changes in one layer. So architecture is an important factor here. Let's quickly review. My understanding and my assumption is that you've kind of experienced and worked with method design. So you already know what's a method, or at least how it's designed. I think that the part that comes where people make mistakes is actually what we should put in each method. So that's what we are going to more focus on more. So with a method, it comes with this like keyword, the def for definition. When you define the method, the name of the method, and then inside parentheses, that's when the method inputs come. What are the parameters? What are the parameters of this method? Inside the method, where you define the method, this is the method body. That's actually the chunk of code that you've placed inside the method. This is the part that you can think, I'm going to reuse the code. If I'm going to reuse the code, then I will place that chunk of code inside the method and start reusing it. Method return. A method can have a return. It can return something when we call it, or it doesn't have to return return anything in some cases. So it has two options. It can return a value or it doesn't. In this case, for instance, when we call it, it will return this percentage. You define the method, then throughout the application, you define it one time, and then throughout the application, you will call it. Like by calling means you type the name of the method, provide the inputs, whatever the input that method needs, you pass the information to the method. The method runs, and then if it has a return, it will return a value to you. And you should probably store it in a variable if it is returning something to you. If it's not returning, then you don't need this part. This part on the other side of the equal sign is when the method is supposed to return a value to you when you call it. This is what we say calling a method, or when a method is called. Here we have defined the method. Any question? Are we clear up to this point about like what's a method and how we define it? But again, this is kind of a let's say just refreshing the topic, and then we will actually see how we will apply it in our code. Oh, okay, we're exactly on time to this here for refactoring. So we have the code now. Next session is just about refactoring. So we're gonna just be like do this refactoring into our code and change our code to be method based. Let me actually take the attendance and then we can end the session here, and exactly we can start it from here next session.